Welcome to the part 2 of the pre-writing of Thor Love and Thunder before its worldwide release. If you haven't watched part 1, here's my humble request. Please watch it to have a clear understanding of the entire pre-write. Now, here's a small recap. Our heroes reunite at New Asgard and now is traveling to Olympus to warn the other gods about the incoming danger in form of Gorr. Now to the pre-write. Act 3. Upon arrival on Mount Olympus, the group is shocked to notice that Olympus feels bit empty. Thor already assumed that Gorr has struck the Olympians with his wraith, but it's awfully quiet. If any such horrific incident had struck Olympus, it would at least bear certain kind of war markings since Olympians won't go down without a fight. The group starts looking for locals to ask about the current scenario. Instead, few Olympian guards discover our group and bring them inside the palace. When inside the inner areas of the palace, they are greeted by other gods present in Olympus. But quite a few notable names are seemingly missing. Thor has been panicking all along. He does sense danger and does not want to lose any more of his friends. Thor demands to meet Zeus, while the group is heavily greeted with gifts and refreshments. Thor rejects these amenities and in an agitated tone states, "I need to see him right now. It doesn't matter how busy he is. I am Thor Odinson. The future gravitas doesn't seem so good, and that includes him." This statement from Thor creates tension and divides the gods' thought processes as some were confused at this statement, while some murmured, "Does he seem to threaten us?" As others joined in saying, "Does he claim us to be coward?" While one of the gods stepped forward and said, "It seems like little Thor wants to act like king and order people around just like his old hag." This agitates Thor even more as he tries to say, "Look, I don't mean it in a bad way, but you need to let me meet Zeus or it's going to be a bloodbath." This rubs the god further as he feels insulted by these remarks and sprint towards Thor with the only intention of taking him down. The scene proceeds to showcase a hand-to-hand combat between Thor and this Olympian god. Although Thor is reluctant to fight seriously since he acknowledges that every precious moment lost is nothing but doomsday call getting near. Thus, he chooses to end the battle quickly by pummeling this god to the ground and screaming, "Stay the F down." Although this battle ends, Thor finds himself under the presence of Zeus and other upper gods, grasping at this sight. And even before Thor could explain his true intentions, Zeus orders a full trial at the court since he doesn't condemn such action and mentions the only reason Thor isn't dead yet is just out of respect for Odin, while the other members of Thor's crew have been told to join the royal company unless they want to join the court with Thor, to which all of them agreed to enjoy the royalties that were being served to them. The court, now summoned, featured quite an elaborate opening, as Zeus welcomed the Asgardians with his fake smile, then proceeded to address the court, stating, "I respect the valor of Asgardians, but today, after a sudden invasion by Thor and his comrades, I feel nothing but disgust. I'll give Odinson the last chance to beg his mercy." Meanwhile, during his speech, Thor is presented to the court and the other Olympian starts booing him. Zeus begins questioning his intention and only doubling down on his beliefs and completely refusing to hear what Thor has to say. Zeus mentions the battle with and against Odin, going further to say how pathetic he was, and even laughed at Asgard being ruined. He showcased his remorse for Odin passing away, but he laughed immediately since he felt happy, since now Olympus is the kingdom of gods. All these insults made Thor slowly but surely burn all the bridges of respect as he screamed, "Enough!" and breaking free from his chains and proceeds to hit Zeus, only to get foreshadowed by his army moving in to save their king. Jane leaps forward to fend off few soldiers, but it's of no use since they are overpowered by the upper gods interfering and imprisoning Thor and his friends. Now with Thor and his entourage being imprisoned, Zeus exclaimed, "For Olympus!" and ordered preparation for a feast since he chooses to enjoy this valiant victory over his self-proclaimed arch-nemesis. But the prep soon turned out to be short-lived when a few lower gods dropped from the sky dead. Their blood splattered over the citizens nearby as the joyful fest was now turned into a complete horror show. When the remaining confused lower gods were ordered to investigate by the upper gods, they experienced a sudden flash as their bodies fell to the ground in pieces. This shot was followed using a cinematic shot that showcased the loss of color from the nearby areas as it marked the entry of Gorr, the god butcher. Zeus laughs and says, "A good battle is always the reason of celebration. Get him!" The army followed by upper gods moved in, but what followed was utter shock. Gorr outlasted every upper god in this vicious fight. Now, with a sadistic smile and his sword crimson coated with its victim's blood left a trail as he entered the court. Zeus acknowledges Gorr to be good, but he is not sure why a person of his caliber is hunting gods. Does he crave their possession, or is he just an hired assassin? Gorr just laughs at Zeus. This agitates Zeus as he gets involved in this battle, although the battle ends in a flash. As the audience is treated to the visuals of Gorr narrating his origins to Zeus's severed head. Happy with his work, Gorr could sense another godly presence nearby. Act 4. Gorr starts to talk down about the gods as he states, "The only one who gods care about is themselves. They are cowards, hunting in packs and petty politics. They all start with full of confidence and rage and are so convinced of this so-called immortality. But when faced with death, their act of bravery fades. So, you all wonder, how would you like death being served?" This agitates Valkyrie. She feels disrespected, but Thor urges this ain't about brute strength, and he cannot afford to lose anyone anymore. Thor explains to everyone that Gorr draws power from the Necroblade, but what fuels him is his sheer hatred. They have to come up with a plan to separate him from the sword and then coordinately attack. But if any wrong step is taken, it will cause a major upset since Gorr won't hesitate to kill. Meanwhile, Gorr being just bored, he uses the Necroblade to drain all the color from Olympus by penetrating the sword inside the planet's surface, causing a huge destruction in process. Thor is not willing to risk any loss of life on other planets or the ecosystem due to Gorr. Therefore, he says they have to face him here. But the initial plan of sticking together stands firm. The big fight does happen, but Gorr keeps shit-talking to everyone. The audience is treated to some very good team-up fight scenes, but Gorr gets angrier as the fight draws out, and therefore he draws more power from the blade. This time, Gorr uses his skill to separate one from another, and thereby taking them apart. He targets Korg and injures him, then focuses on Valkyrie and battles her, while talking down to her about her status. Jane, not standing such an action, charges in, but Gorr says he's right. And this turns Jane back to her mortal self, as he hysterically laughs at Jane's pathetic state. Okay, this is the editor in me talking. I did this scene specifically to show how emotionless Gorr is right now. He has turned into a sadistic god butcherer, and he actually enjoys inflicting pain on his victims. And compared to his original goal, which was just a vengeful spite against the god, the current Gorr has kind of deviated from his initial ideology. So I also want to show the fact that Gorr draws intense amount of power from the blade, which is not only physical but also psychological power. Anyways, now back to the Prewrite. Valkyrie loses her anger and therefore indulges into a solo battle with Gorr, which ultimately leads to Gorr actually killing her. This actions angers Thor. It's not just rage, but this anger is generated from being remorseful, losing a king, but most importantly, another someone dear to him. There's a void in his heart, but he can feel someone whispering to him. Thor envisions his father, Odin, who states, "The son of Odin has known the bitter taste of defeat in the past, but he has never endured the ignominy of surrender. Even though death can be the only outcome, you shall fight with every single breath that remains within, because you are Thor Odinson, the king of Asgard." Thereby, the audience witnesses a transformed version of Thor, now known as the King Thor, who is now able to use the Odin Force. The audience is also treated to an incredible fight scene between Gorr and King Thor, where Gorr tries but falls short to that incredible power scaling of King Thor. He also can feel the power of the Necroblade fading away rapidly. He starts questioning the All Black and screams, "In the end, even you showed your true colors. After all, gods are cunning." And he curses the All Black. Gorr falls to the ground, being defeated by King Thor. And then he says to him, "You are not like the other gods I've killed. You are different." To which Thor replies,
"Because I have something worth fighting for."
The Necroblade vanishes from the scene. While Thor shows a bit of remorse for Gorr, he rushes towards now weakened Jane in her mortal form, holding Valkyrie's hand and sobbing about the loss of her friend, with Korg standing still. The moment is somber, but colors of Olympia slowly starts returning. And that's how Thor Love and Thunder comes to an end. Okay, now since the pre-write is over, I would like to clarify out few decisions that I've taken while writing this pre-write. Firstly, I never explained why Thor and Jane broke up, so I think it should be a concept that needs to be explained in Thor 5. I definitely don't think Chris Hemsworth or Natalie Portman is going to say this is the final Thor film they're going to appear at, because Thor really plays an important character in the events that leads up to Secret Wars. And also, since I gave Thor a major upgrade into the King Thor arc, this is also important since he is actually the king for the first time in his entire film arc, and also the fact that he is now using Odin force, that also opens up tons of opportunities which can be exploited from major runs in the comics. Number 2, Jane's health condition does return when she detransforms into a mortal. Therefore, she is still struggling with cancer. And also, I feel it is not possible to keep two characters who plays Thor on screen, as it is going to be really confusing for the fans or the audiences to keep up with who is actually working as a main character. Therefore, I think it would be really a cool concept to do the story arc where Jane Foster from a mighty Thor transforms into the Valkyrie. And since in this pre-write did choose for the death of original Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, I do think it's going to be an interesting take of Jane not only battling with her physical conditions, she's also battling with herself to take up the role of Valkyrie, who has been a very good queen for New Asgard, and she has been a very good friend to Jane Foster. Lastly, I will straight up explain my choice for killing Valkyrie. Yes, it does serve as a major gateway for Thor to evolve into the King Thor story arc, but this is the final sacrifice which actually channels himself to become the King Thor. Yes, but no, I don't want Tessa Thompson to retire from playing Valkyrie. Since the multiverse is open, she can definitely return as the Queen of Asgard, but in this version, I want to see Beta Ray Bill as a variant of Thor, and also Lady Sif being the fiance of Valkyrie in this arc, because in the comics, they do have a very good relationship, so I do think that can be a possible probability. Lastly, I would like to talk about the post-credit scene. There's a reason I never mentioned the post-credit scene. The rights for the next major villain which can be introduced completely belongs to Sony, because the next villain that I'm going to talk about is going to be Null. He is the god of symbiote. I do think this is a very good possibility to introduce Null, because he is a supernatural god where we can see a Midnight Sun team up to take on Null. Marvel can make an R-rated Midnight Sun film, because you can involve characters such as like Deadpool, Moon Knight, Wolverine, Blade, Kit Harington's Black Knight, and other people teaming up to take on Null. So that's gonna be my post-credit scene. If you have liked the pre-write, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you like the work, it would mean a world to us if you can subscribe.